So youth are heavily being impacted by climate change, and one way to uplift them is by partnerships. What kind of partnerships do you propose for youth groups?
One of the best things that I've seen in communications partnerships, where people bring their various channels together, is that they have a calendar, a schedule, and some accountability. So climate is something that needs accountability, right? We know that. We just talked about targets, etc. So as a community, when we come together with young people and we ask them to bring their social media channels to bear, their ideas to bear, bring their communities together, we should also have some metrics. So one thing that has been very helpful for us as we look at things like Earth to Marrakesh is to bring together and have some goals that we want to reach X people by the end of this year, or by the time the COP begins in Marrakesh, so that we've reached this many people. That's important to do. So just the same accountability we want when it comes to stewarding the earth and tackling climate change, we should have with our communications. Let's do that. The other thing that I think is really important is that every single organization that we've ever worked with, that talks with and advocates with and that galvanizes youth, has asked for authenticity. What that means is, if there's a problem in what we're talking about, someone should call it out right away. Not wait, not resent it, but call out those messages so that we can make sure there's a better connection. So those are two of the things that I found and that have been advised to me as important when you're partnering with young people as you talk about climate change.
So what do you think is the significance that the ratification of the Paris Agreement falls on International Peace Day? And how do you believe that we should involve students and adults globally?
I think it makes so much sense.
Right.
It also makes sense because for me, as you look at International Peace Day isn't a day to sit back and relax. International Peace Day is a work day. Peace Day is a work day. It's a day to work for peace. It's a day to recognize those who have made great contributions, but I think it shows that you've got to work for peace and you've got to work for climate action. It means taking risks, because there are a lot of people who feel passionately about some misinformation. We've got to feel passionate and work towards sharing and not labeling people, but inviting them in to the conversation about solutions. So I think spending less time labeling people who've been outside the conversation and more time inviting them in, that's pretty appropriate for Peace Day, and I think that's what we should be doing.
And I think also, to add on to that, what role do you think that social media plays in getting together? I mean, I know that there are obvious positive effects bringing together. For example, Earth to Marrakesh, that was beautiful. But also, don't you believe that there are some negative effects, such as more biased opinions, and it could be given the misinformation that you were talking about before?
So I think it goes back to some of the basics around good movement building with social media. Hey, I'm at a summit meeting. I'm at an international summit meeting where social media leaders have been invited to take part of that. Summit meetings have changed. Summitry has changed. That's exciting. But the other part of it is that you have to, much like with social media, you have to listen to your community. You have to listen to your friends. We get information that way. But we have to always make sure that we're being intellectually curious and listening outside, getting outside our comfort zones. And when it comes to climate change and solutions, we have to make sure we're not just listening to each other. The choir is important. We've got to look outside the choir as well. That's how we're going to get innovation, excitement, and that's how we're going to help build political will.
So, do you have any questions for us?
Absolutely, 100%. For me, the question is, as Paris took place, and so many young people were around the Paris conversation, what are they understanding that needed to happen next? What's the first most important step that young people think has to take place now that the Paris Agreement came into force?
Well, that's definitely engagement. Engagement with community activists or elected officials or community leaders or friends. Like, if you make a post and all of your friends share that post, that has the potential to reach over 100,000 people. So we as youth need to make use of our social media accounts.
And
Sorry. And I also think that before anything else, education is extremely important, like we were saying before, to look on social media and also on outside sources like articles, anything like that. For example, in our fellowship, Action Fellowship for Climate Change, we take part in first educating ourselves on climate change and the issues and environmental politics, and then with the youth we can act.
so I think the final question I've had for both of you is, when you enter in that door and try to bring people into the climate conversation, right? There's various ways to do it. What is a way that your friends have responded to most? When you say, hey, I want to talk to you about climate, you don't just start talking about political frameworks or agreements. What's the best way to start a conversation around climate action and to connect for climate? What's one of the best ways to start that in your opinion?
Right. Well, I think that as teenagers, there isn't a lot of things about politics that makes it cool for us to talk about, you know? So when we get together and when we hang out, when we go to parties, when we hang out in the cafeteria, we don't necessarily want to talk about how the Paris Agreement has joined 186 countries and how it's such a political movement, but more we want to make it so that it seems cool, you know? So it's like we, as a generation, we want to be the ones that make recycling cool and that make, you know, caring about the environment cool, that make composting cool. So I think that for me, when I took part in action in my school, I mostly grabbed my friends and I said, let's do this, let's take action in this because this can affect our children and this can affect anything that we do. And I know that in the ACE Fellowship, we also took part in doing things like making a YouTube channel, and we also want to like make a rap video. We thought that could be cool, just to like attract more
it is
youth.
cool. Connecting around climate action is very cool.
Yeah, it's
right.
very
And there's no
cool.
reason to ever apologize for that. So,
Yeah.
So what about you?
So politics is a very sticky topic. As you see in our country right now, partisan politics are getting very dirty. It's always Democrat, Republican, and we can't make any common sense bipartisan laws. So as youth, we really ignore politics. As much as they try to outreach, we ignore politics. And the best way to talk about climate change is by everyday acts that we do. A day at the beach. One day you go to the beach, the sea level will be somewhere safe that you can play in the sand. And another time you can't play in the sand, there's no sand. Water is all the way up on the shore, there's no shore anymore. Climate change is affecting us in our everyday lives. The food we eat, the clothes we wear, it all has an impact on climate change.
So there's nothing more bipartisan, right, than taking climate action, but at the same time, everyone has to be invited to the party.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great, thank
it's
you.
affecting everyone.
Well, thank you. It's been great talking to you today. Great being here.